after being diagnosed with ADHD and OCD in the space of 3 years, Dr. Alex George is now asking people to rethink what we consider as normal in his new book. And he joins us now this morning. Hello, Alex.
Morning.
Good to see you.
See you as well.
I mean, it's a beautifully personal book, but with the sole purpose of helping others who may be struggling for various reasons. Because I'm going to guess all of us at one point have asked, am I normal? Is this what normal is?
Yeah.
It's a confusing question.
I think most people at some point in their life have met friction or a situation where they've gone like, is it me or is it the world? What's going on here? Like, am I normal? And I guess what I wanted to do after getting assessed for ADHD is sit down and work out like how much is me and how much is actually the environment, the world that we live in. So I used basically some of the questions I was asked by my psychiatrist, like what was school like, talked about your childhood, relationship with alcohol, with friends and whether you're lonely. And I used these titles to kind of dig into this and try and understand it. And genuinely I was using this as an opportunity to understand myself better, and 3 years later it's turned into this book. But to be honest, it's such an odd thing because today the book is out and published and I feel quite a lot of relief because, to be honest, it's the most painful professional thing I've ever done. Outside of A&E, this was really difficult to do because this isn't a book that's like self-help. It isn't me standing back behind medical advice. This is me going, here guys, these are all this is good, bad and the ugly, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. But it's interesting, you talk about your diagnosis of ADHD in 2022. And at that point though, it did allow you to finally kind of understand yourself and to realise just how much it had shaped your whole life, career-wise as well. And you mentioned in the book about how you were always sort of looking for a mask. You needed to be behind a mask and you found a surgical one and that did the job. But here you were working in A&E and it joins together, doesn't it?
I think, you know, I wrote this book from the lens of neurodivergence, and I think a lot of people who are neurodivergent or think they might be will find a lot they can relate to in this book. But it really is for anyone that's kind of questioned that, like, what is going on here? Where's this friction come from? And I'm a big believer to that point that often it's the right person in the wrong place. Like if you put me in school was a nightmare to me. I think actually the school system isn't normal. I think it's outdated and it makes a lot of people really struggle and perhaps even makes people sick. But also if you look at a situation where if you take me and put me in an office environment 9 to 5, I won't last very long, unfortunately. But when I was working in A&E, it was absolutely perfect for me and my dopamine chasing ADHD.
High-pressure environment. High
pressure, hyper-focus, lots of things I need to manage, needing to zone in. I was calm when the pressures were high. Put me in an office, it wouldn't be good. So I guess what I'm saying to people is like, sometimes when there's friction, you do have to look. And there is accountability, it's about learning, growth. It's not about going, I'm accepting myself and there's no flaws I'm going to be working on. That's not what I'm saying. But there is a question of sometimes like, is it actually your fault that things are causing a lot of friction and discomfort right now? Or do we need to question society? Look at things like our auto-enrolment into drinking. You become a teenager in Wales, here's a pint of beer, go and play rugby, drink beer. Here's this addictive, poisonous substance. If you don't control it and have fun, you're the problem. And like there's things like that where I'm not saying it's about being anti-alcohol, but perhaps we should have more choice. Maybe we need to educate people to say, hey, you don't have to drink. There's another life. And grief is another big one. I mean, look, you know, everyone loses someone. And of course, Lorraine, and bless her, losing her dad. And, you know, I'm literally sending my love to Lorraine. I think the world of her. She's actually been amazing to me over the years and seen me in a lot of my low points and been very kind to me. Losing like her father and things. Everyone goes through grief. And yet we're expected to kind of get on with it. You get the messages, the flowers, and then it's like, right, come on, pretend it never happened. And it makes people sick.
That's the thing. It's a bigger issue then, isn't it? It goes back to the schools, workplaces, society as a whole, really. And again, for an awful lot of people, certainly when it comes to the ADHD, it's getting a diagnosis in the first place. So there's lots of things need to be fixed. But the purpose of the book is at least some of the questions in there might suddenly feel, oh, well, you've asked it and you've kind of answered it. And that in itself, it can be a great tool for people.
The greatest gift you can give yourself is the gift of acceptance. And you can only accept yourself when you understand who you really are. I masked for 30 plus years. I tried to be someone I wasn't, and it did make me unwell. And it's only when I was at rock bottom, I was over 20 stone in weight, I was struggling with alcohol, I was burying grief and overworking myself, that I went, I can't do this anymore. And that diagnosis gave me the freedom to accept myself and choose a different life. And for people who say, oh, look, we're overdiagnosing ADHD, we're not. A Lancet study, 9 million people on GP records, only 0.32% have a diagnosis of ADHD. That's 10 times lower than the actual prevalence. And the prevalence means how many people genuinely have it. So, you know, it's about, these things aren't about just sticking labels on. It's about people knowing who they are, understanding themselves and accepting themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, it's a really interesting read. It's very personal. It's like talking to a friend, which I think is a very important aspect to it. And getting outside, getting outdoors, which is how your podcast came about as well. So it's all in there. All of those questions are delved into. Thank you very much, Alex. Am I Normal?
Thank you.
Is out now. Thank you.